Hey you guys, and welcome back. We are doing my eyeshadow palette collection. I'm going to show you guys in this video all of the eyeshadow palettes that I own. It's the next video in my drugstore makeup stash series that I have a whole playlist on. I will link it in the description bar below. I'm not going to swatch these palettes because it's going to take a long time. I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we are diving into this cabinet, and I'm going to go into this drawer right here. It's very messy, but this is where I'm currently storing my eyeshadow palettes. I'm always scared to open this drawer because it's so heavy and I feel like it's going to knock the whole cabinet down. I don't have it safetied to the wall, but this is all of my eyeshadow palettes. There's no reason why I'm on the floor right now, I just realized. But I want to kind of set the camera up so you guys can see all of the eyeshadow palettes, and we're going to go through them one by one. Let's start with Morphe. I used to have like a ton of Morphe palettes, and then I gave a lot of them away. I just like never reached for them. But one that I kept is the 35F. It only has one row of mattes, which is at the top here. The reason I kept this and got rid of my other Morphe ones is because I felt like the quality of this was a little bit better than like the 35K that I used to have. And I don't know, I had like a couple other ones, and I just found like this one was the best one. I actually want to rotate into this one again, use it for like a month or whatever. I'm gonna keep it until I like actually use it as like one of my eyeshadow palettes of the month. It is a really beautiful palette. Like I said, I don't really like a lot of Morphe palettes, but that one I actually really like. The other Morphe palette that I have is the 35OM. This is their matte version of their like famous 35O. Like, have you guys like not heard of Morphe in a long time? Like, I feel like I just don't have any interest in Morphe anymore, and I don't know why that is. I used to like always be like interested in trying their products, but now I'm like, I have no interest in Morphe anymore. I feel like this is going to be my October palette of the month. I know that's a long ways away, but the tones in here are just so fall to me. BH Cosmetics has these ultimate eyeshadow palettes that are huge. I love both of these so much. I think they are some of the best quality eyeshadow palettes. This one I talked about a lot. This is their Ultimate Artistry palette. It's the one that I used in the month of March, and I love it. It's like one of my all-time favorite palettes. And then you guys already know that my palette of April is the Ultimate Matte eyeshadow palette, which just has all of these beautiful tones in it. Honestly, I feel like now that I'm looking at this, I don't need to keep the 35OM. Let me just like compare them. The 35OM just has so many brown shades in it. They are kind of similar, honestly. Like, they have a lot of the same tones. So eventually I'm pretty sure I will get rid of this 35OM because I like the BH Cosmetics one. I like the formula a bit better. Also, I painted my nails today. I'm really into like multicolored nails. Painted them about like 2 hours ago, and I realized now that I'm going to be opening a bunch of these palettes. That was probably the stupidest idea because they're all going to get chipped and stuff. They're already chipping, and I just painted them. I have the Zodiac palette. This is the Love Signs palette. It's actually the second one that they have. It's such a beautiful palette. The design, I'm not really a fan of. Like, I don't like weird designs. For the drugstore, this is kind of like a collector's piece to me because it's just so unique. It's not boring, and it's kind of got like a theme to it. Then I have the BH Cosmetics Aurora Lights palette. It's fully shimmers. There are no mattes in this at all. The formula is really good. This is the Glam Reflections palette. This is so good. I think this is my favorite BH Cosmetics palette. And it's so boring. Like, it's just this like, I don't know, warm toned, boring palette. Just a really nice palette. I think this is going to be my August eyeshadow palette of the month. Like, doesn't this just feel like August to you? It's just such a, like a kind of end of summer, getting into fall. Formula is amazing. There's like one shade in here that I don't like that much, but honestly, it's one of my favorites. I love the packaging of it as well. It's kind of this like hard plastic. It's just great. I love this. I want to get more of these. I don't need any more, but I want to get more of the Glam Reflection palettes from BH Cosmetics. I have two from JCat. I feel like JCat's not a super popular brand, and I don't remember exactly where I bought these actually, because I don't even think you can buy them in Canada, so I have no idea where these came from. But I have the Hollywood palette, which is so good. This palette is one of my favorites. I have so many favorites. It doesn't really make sense, but I kind of like that about this because it's so weird. I don't know, like, I don't know why I like this, honestly, but I do. Not like the biggest fan of the shimmers, but the 2 rows of mattes are so good. And then I have Santa Monica, which is kind of a boring palette, I guess. It kind of reminds me of roses or something. Like, it gives me garden vibes. This one I don't like as much as the Hollywood palette. It's just not as interesting to me. But doesn't this, like, I keep thinking in months now, but doesn't this palette remind you of November? Like, when I look at this, I just think of November. Dreary, but somehow like cozy. I don't know. Let's talk about e.l.f. I have so many e.l.f. palettes. I think I've mentioned it before. My favorite brands for eyeshadows are BH Cosmetics, Makeup Revolution, and e.l.f. I have these little best friend duos from e.l.f. I have Pink Pal and I have Bestie Brown, and I also have what was like called Peach Squad, I think, and this one broke, so I'm gonna toss Peach Squad before it gets everywhere else. But these are just cute little duos. They're a really nice formula. I actually really enjoy these. But anyways, these aren't really palettes. They're just like cute little duos. This is like their clay eyeshadow quad. Oh my god, my nails. This is their clay eyeshadow quad, and it's in the shade Necessary Nudes. Probably a good one for traveling if you don't want anything huge. I'm actually gonna give this one away. I don't like the formula as much as I thought I would, and I just never reach for this. And I also have this one, which is their Matte Essentials palette. Also gonna give this one away because, I don't know, like these shades I can find anywhere pretty much, so this one is also going away. Then I have their little Sculpting Silk eyeshadow quad, well, trio actually. This is in the shade Rosé All Day. I'm also going to declutter this one though because I don't reach for it very often. It is nice for like the spring, I guess. I just find I don't grab this one ever, so I'm going to declutter this one. I have their Aqua Beauty palettes, which I have a whole video on these actually. These are kind of cool. This is in the shade Cool Mist, and then this one is in the shade Island Breeze. They're an interesting formula. They kind of have that cushiony wet texture to them. I am going to hang on to Cool Mist, and I'm going to pass on this one in Island Breeze. I've used this quite a few times actually, and I don't even know if a sister would want this. Then I have a bunch of these palettes, which are mainly their Mad for Matte palettes. This one is their original, I think. Yes! Oh my god, this palette takes me back. This is their like original one. It's just full of neutral shades. I really like this palette anyway. It's a good formula. Then I have their Mad for Matte 2, with the second one obviously that they came out with. And this is in Summer Breeze. It's a little bit more warmer and it has those pops of like purple in it. And my favorite one, I think, from the Mad for Mattes is the third one, which is called Holy Smokes. This is a very fall-toned palette, in my opinion. I really like this palette a lot. The last one they released was in the shade Jewel Pop. This is the one I reach for the least, and it's because it's kind of like a brighter toned palette. I'm not like the biggest fan of this one as much, but because I like collecting these, I am going to obviously keep it. And the last one of these like 10-pan palettes from e.l.f. is their Rose Gold Sunset palette. Ugh, I broke this one too in multiple places. This is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. It's so good. The formula in here is like the best I've ever had from e.l.f. I love, 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 love the formula. I feel like I've gotten eyeshadow all over my pants, which is great. One more e.l.f. palette. This is the e.l.f. New Classics palette. I picked it in the month of February. It is a very February palette to me. Like, this looks like February. This is also really, really amazing. None of the other palettes like this that e.l.f. has interested me. This is the only one that I've ever been interested in, and I really like it. Again, a really great formula. Love e.l.f. shadows. They are just really amazing and beautiful. And those are all of my e.l.f. palettes. So let's look at NYX. Okay, I actually don't have that many NYX palettes. I thought I had more. I have two of their like ultimate eyeshadow palettes. I have one in the shade Phoenix, I think it's called. Yeah, which is this like beautiful warm toned palette. I love the shades in here. The formula isn't my favorite, especially the mattes. They're pretty dry, but the color selection is really stunning. The other one I have is in the shade Brights, which is like my only fully colorful eyeshadow palette. Then I have their Perfect Filter palette, which I love this palette. I hope they still make it. It's just so good. It's like one of the best NYX palettes that I own, and it's full of these beautiful, easy to wear warm tone shades. NYX, I don't really like it for eyeshadows. I feel like it's very hit or miss, like the brand in general with eyeshadows. There's been like a few palettes from NYX that I have gotten rid of in the past that I don't like. This formula is one of their better ones. So if you're going to purchase from NYX, like the Perfect Filter palettes are a pretty safe bet. But I don't know, like NYX I am always like wary to try because I find that their shadow formulas are very hit or miss. The Avant Pop palette. This is in the shade Surreal My Heart. I love this palette. It's so interesting and different. I don't even think they sell this anymore. It's so weird. It's like a weird palette. It kind of feels like July. Like it seems like a July month to me. Like it's like the ocean and the sun and like the sand. This is probably their best formula. It's better than the Perfect Filter, except I don't feel like they make these anymore. And then their last one is their Lid Lingerie palette. This came out with their lingerie line, just full of these beautiful neutral, easy to wear shades. They're all matte. I do like the lingerie palette. That is NYX. I only have 2 Milani palettes, so let's just go through those ones now. I have their Soft and Sultry, which I love. It's one of my all-time favorite palettes. It's so boring, but it's so good. If you're into like neutral or cool tone shades, definitely pick this one up. It's a nice formula. Milani is another brand that I feel like their shadow formula is very hit or miss. But this one is actually a good formula and I would recommend it. The one I really want from Milani is their Bold Obsessions palette, and I can't find it anywhere. I don't know if it was limited edition, but that palette is so beautiful and I want it so bad. Because I couldn't get that one, I had to pick up Soft and Sultry, and I'm really glad I did. It's that perfect cool toned eyeshadow palette. And then the formula from Milani that I don't like is their Everyday Eyes eyeshadow palettes. This one is like their warm tone one. I used to have a bunch of these and I got rid of all of them because I just don't like them. They don't work for me. They used to be really good because the drugstore didn't used to have like a ton of great options, but once the drugstore started coming out with good stuff, these really like, this one I'm not gonna keep. Oh, these are so old and wow, I forgot I had these, honestly. These are from Beauty Treats, which I don't even know where I bought them or how I got them, but these are the Modern Matte eyeshadow palettes. I loved this one, which was like their neutral one. So good. Like this was one of my favorite palettes for the longest time. The thing is, I just have so many shades like this and I don't need this anymore. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. I think it's like $1 brand though. Like they were really cheap. And the other one I have, it doesn't have a name, but it's this one. I'm gonna actually get rid of this one. I almost thought about keeping it, but I really don't need it. And I feel like I have these shades in other palettes, so we are going to declutter that one. Covergirl, I really only have 2 palettes, and I think I'm gonna pass both of these on. The formula is really nice. I don't know, I just don't reach for them. So this is their True Naked Nudes palette. It was like the dupe for the Urban Decay Naked 2 palette maybe. And then also this one, which is in the shade Sunset. I love this one. It's such a beautiful warm tone palette, but again, I have so many palettes like this in my collection, so I really don't need this one. I only Covergirl palettes because I don't really, like I said, I don't really own a lot of Covergirl eyeshadows. I have one palette from Rimmel, which is their Spice edition. Again, this is like a palette that I have these shades in like every other palette. I do like the formula of this. I think it's a really nice texture, and I don't really have a lot of Rimmel products in my collection. I feel like I don't buy them that often, so I do want to like have something from Rimmel. This would be a really beautiful palette for the summertime. 2 palettes that I liked but I no longer need are the LA Girl I Lux Palettes. This one is in the shade Eternalize, which is like, it's a pretty like normal palette. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't reach for it anymore. I also have the shade Urbanize. So pretty standard palettes. They're just little quads. They're a good formula. I just don't really need them. So I'm going to pass these both on. I have one Catrice palette that I love. It's really good. It's the Catrice x Iman palette. It has a whole bunch of wearable shades in it. and I like the formula. And it's a good one for like traveling because it's quite small. I guess we could talk about Wet n Wild. I just have 2 of their palettes. One of them is in Coffin Break, which I think was limited edition. It was from released at Halloween, but I love this palette so much. It's such a nice fall palette. I think this is going to be my October palette actually now. I don't know if I've already said that with something else, but this just feels like October. Like it's Halloween. It basically is Halloween and Thanksgivings and everything. So I'm going to be probably, hopefully, I will remember to use that one in October. And then the other one I have is called Nude Awakening, which is a very neutral, cool toned palette, but I love it. I think it's one of the most beautiful palettes. Just love how boring but beautiful this palette is. Wet n Wild's pretty good. Like their formula is pretty good. A one-off brand that I think I'm going to pass on. This is the Joe Fresh eyeshadow palette. It's a really pretty neutral palette, but I don't know, like I just don't reach for it very often, and I feel like I didn't like the black in here, and the texture was kind of dry, so I'm gonna be passing that one on. These are from Bad Habit and Alter Ego, which are like the same brand now. This one is the Inferno palette. I almost feel like I should get rid of this one now. They gifted this one to me with a whole bunch of other ones, and I got rid of all of them except for this one, and now I feel like, do I need to keep this one? Kind of torn. I really like this palette. Just a really easy warm tone palette to use. The formula is really great. But the one I love the most is the Temptress palette. This is so good. This is like one of my favorite palettes. It's the dupe for Sultry by Anastasia Beverly Hills, which you can't get anymore. So this is a great option if you wanted to pick up the Sultry palette, and the formula is really great. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of Inferno because I kept that Rimmel one, and I feel like I don't need this one because I kept Rimmel. So let's get rid of that one. Oh, and then I have the actual Sultry palette. Alter Ego sent me this as well so that I can compare the two. And it's the only Anastasia palette that I own. So I'm going to be keeping this one, obviously. I've never held such an expensive eyeshadow palette in my life before. Another random palette that I love is the Sunrise palette from Folklore. They also sent me this. It's so beautiful. This is my favorite palette for shimmers. Like these sparkly shades in here are so beautiful. They are so, like there's no sparkle that is better than these shades in here. What would this palette be good for? Like what month? I don't know, maybe May? It's kind of like a May palette, I guess. Now this is like a rosy palette. I feel like May would be pretty good. Or you know what? April would have been great, but I didn't choose it. This is definitely like an April palette. And the rest of these palettes are all Makeup Revolution. So Makeup Revolution is one of my favorite brands for eyeshadow palettes. After BH Cosmetics, these are probably the next best. I have quite a few of them because they're just really good. I love the Soph X palettes, like the ones that Soph does nails. I think she's just Soph now, maybe on YouTube, but she created these in collaboration with them. I have both of them. This is like one of my all-time favorite palettes. This is the original one. It has every single shade I could possibly want. Perfect mix of mattes, shimmers, satin. It's just so good. Formula is amazing. And then I also like their Soph X like Extra Spice palette. It's a little bit more warm toned. I don't like it as much as the original, but it's still so good. I love the Soph X palettes. Honestly, I hope she does more collaborations with them because she picks the best shades. And I have this one, which is their Reloaded palette in Velvet Rose. This is just like a neutral palette. I think it's a dupe for Anastasia's Soft Glam palette. Again, really great formula. Kind of boring, but it's pretty standard. Then I love their Revo Pooches palette. This is so beautiful. Probably another one of my like all-time favorite palettes. Some of the shades in here are chunky. I won't deny it. There are some chunky glitters in here, but I just love this color scheme. I love the packaging. It's so good. This is definitely a January palette. I think I actually picked it for January. It feels very like wintry to me. I love the Revo Pooches palette. And I also have another chocolate bar palette from them. This is the Creme Brulee palette. My camera's about to die. I feel like this is a September palette. I hope I haven't said that already for another palette, but this looks like September to me. It's very like warm toned, kind of like rich mustardy shades. But then it has these like random pops of purple in it. I don't know, it's very beautiful. Then I have two of their Precious Stone palettes. I'm not like the biggest fan of these. I actually think I'm going to get rid of the purple one. This is the shade Amethyst. The shades in here are really beautiful. The formula just wasn't my favorite. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not like the biggest fan. The formula just wasn't great. And I also have the shade Diamond. I think I like Diamond more. So I'm going to get rid of Amethyst. I love the color selection of this one. Again, it's just kind of like the formula isn't as good as typical Makeup Revolution palettes. Then I have their All That Glistens palette. This is actually Revolution Pro. This is December. Like, this is my December palette. It is the perfect December Christmas palette, and if I don't pick this in December as my eyeshadow palette of the month, you guys have to call me out, because like I don't see how I can pick any other palette for Christmas than this one. This is like Christmas in a palette. And they have this one, which is kind of boring but also kind of beautiful. It's from Revolution Pro. It's their Night and Day palette. It's baked eyeshadows, but you get both matte and shimmers. I just feel like I haven't reached for this one as much yet, and I feel like maybe I need to pick it as my shadow of the month sooner rather than later, so I can actually like wear this one more often. Maybe like June or something. My last two eyeshadow palettes are from Revolution again, and these are their glitter palettes. So I was really into glitter last like spring and summer, and I wore a ton of glittery shades. I don't own a lot of glitter palettes, so I'm gonna obviously keep these even though I don't reach for them that often, because when I do want to wear glitter, like these are my go-tos. So I have this one, which doesn't have a name, but it's like their gold one. This one, which is like kind of their unicorn one. I definitely don't need this. Like, when am I gonna reach for these glitters? But it's just so cool. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to grab this one. And that is all my palettes. I have glitter and eyeshadow everywhere, and on my pants and on my rug. This was not a good idea. I just love eyeshadow palettes, color stories, and everything about eyeshadow palettes. Like, they're like art to me. They're like a beautiful piece of art. So yes. Anyways, that's why I have a lot of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite eyeshadow palettes are from the drugstore. Also, let me know how many you have. I like reading how many you guys have and know that I'm not like alone in this. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Please subscribe if you like to see more videos, and I will see you in my next one.